Welcome to this overview video of the ASIC PLM's NX connector for Aras Innovator. As we will see in this video, thanks to an in-depth application integration, the ASIC PLM's NX connector is your direct access to the Aras Innovator PLM system. The connector allows you to access the PLM functionalities right from within the NX environment and to manage the flow of information between the Aras database and the Aras Vault and the NX session and the local work directories. On the one hand, the NX connector fully adopts and supports the Aras CAD model. As it will be clear in a few moments, this includes creating and managing parts and CAD documents in the Aras database and the storing and handling of the NX native files in the Aras Vault. On top of that, the connector automatically creates and manages the associated BOMs and CAD hierarchies and takes care of the part number registration in Aras. On the other hand, the connector also supports the NX dependencies, all the NX part attributes, and the management of the drawings title block. We will see these functionalities in action in a few moments. Today's video will cover the following topics: the integration of the connector within NX, registering and storing an assembly into Aras Innovator, automatically generating and storing the associated BOM, generating part numbers in Aras Innovator, the bidirectional mapping from the NX 3D models and drawings to Aras Innovator and vice versa, retrieving an assembly from Aras Innovator, reusing parts and assemblies that already exist in Aras Innovator. As we will see in a few moments, thanks to the ASIC PLM's NX connector, all these functionalities are available right from within NX. This greatly improves the CAD designer's efficiency, facilitates and fosters the collaboration in the design phase, and ensures that users with the proper permissions will have access to the latest generations. Let's first have a look at how the connector is integrated in NX. Accessing the connector functions is as easy as opening your NX environment and using the integrated connector ribbon menu. Without leaving NX, you can register your CAD data and generate part numbers, store your parts, assemblies, and BOM into Aras Innovator, retrieve your NX files from Aras Innovator, lock and unlock in Aras Innovator the models and drawings currently in session, insert and replace components of your NX design with parts from Aras Innovator, reuse parts and assemblies already existing in Aras Innovator as a starting point for a new design, check on latest to check if any of the files open in session are at an on latest generation, access to your local workspace explorer, fine-tune the connector settings. I have loaded this assembly from my local work folder. This assembly has custom NX attributes already defined. As we will see in a moment, the ASIC PLM connector is able not only to map these values to Aras attributes, but also to write Aras attributes values back into the NX files. That would be useful, for example, for the Aras revision and CAD document number and for other more complex scenarios. I've already created a drawing for the assembly and for one of its children. Let's have a quick look at their title blocks. Some of the information is synced with the 3D model, such as reference code and market. Other title block attributes will be filled out by the connector using information from the Aras Innovator PLM. Here are the NX part attributes of the drawing files. They are still empty, as they refer to PLM attributes, and we haven't registered and stored the files into the PLM system yet. The drawing of one of the children of the assembly, on the other hand, contains information about the manufacturing method and the material. We will see, for example, how the values of the manufacturing method would be mapped from the PLM back to the drawing and its title block. We are now ready to register our assembly, components, and drawings. The registration operation will create the Aras CAD document and Aras part items that will represent my CAD design in the PLM system, without physically copying the NX native files into the Aras Vault. This allows you to reserve part numbers in the PLM system and to continue working on your design. You will be able to store the physical files into the PLM Vault when the design is mature. I close my drawings, as I don't need to have all the drawings open in session, as the connector will find them for me. There is a pop-up message alerting me that the connector is set up to rename files. I click Yes, and I access what is called the Register Hierarchy Explorer. This window has the important function to allow me to revise all the information before actually committing to register my design into the PLM system. The top left area displays all the new Aras part items that the connector is going to create for me, while the bottom left area displays all the items related to these parts, such as drawings, family members, or Aras CAD documents. In the right-hand area, the PLM details of the selected item are displayed. First of all, I will create part numbers for all my new parts and CAD documents in Aras Innovator. There are 3 ways to generate part numbers. You can do that manually, like this. Or you could search for existing part numbers in Aras Innovator and associate those numbers to the current CAD design. Or you could have the connector automatically generate part numbers for you. It is as easy as selecting all items and clicking on Generate Part Numbers. The connector can use an Aras sequence, as in this example, or even an Aras server method that allows one to implement more complex part number logic. This icon confirms that these are all new parts that the connector will create for me in the PLM system. As you can see, the name, description, type, PLM attributes have been mapped using information from the NX files. Let's select the claw component. The bottom left area shows information about the part family and instances, if any. The connector is able to manage your drawings, and it will create an Aras CAD document for each of them and apply all the property mappings to and from the PLM system. This icon tells me that the connector is going to create this CAD document in the Aras database. Finally, this is the Aras CAD document that the connector will create for the 3D model NX file. On the right side, I can also review the information of each Aras item that the connector is going to create for me. For example, these are the PLM attributes of the CAD document item that the connector will create for this component. I could even assign PLM values on the fly, such as the manufacturing method for the Aras CAD document. I can select the value from this drop-down menu, which reflects how these properties are defined in the corresponding list in the PLM system. Or for example, I can assign a value to the subtype PLM attribute for the Aras part items. This action has 2 effects. It assigns a value to the PLM attribute, and this value can also be written back to the NX files if needed. We will see this in action in a few moments for the manufacturing method PLM attribute. I click Register, and the connector creates part items and CAD document items in the PLM. The actual files are not copied to the PLM Vault yet. This allows the designers to reserve part numbers early in the design process, keep working on their design, and actually store the files at a later moment. The connector asks if I want to continue with storing the files to the Aras Vault. I click No, and I continue working on my design. Let's have a look at the assembly's properties. Notice that the custom part attributes have already been filled out by the connector using the PLM attribute values of the associated PLM CAD document item. Even in the title block of the assembly, the mappings have already taken place. For example, the CAD document number and revision of the drawing itself, or the PLM document number and revision of the associated 3D model, or the PLM CAD user information. They have all been mapped from the PLM back to the drawing and its title block. As you can see, the mappings have taken place in the title block of the claw component too. Let's open the connector settings and have a look at the property mappings and what you can achieve with the connector. This tab shows all the property mappings between NX and Aras Innovator for all the NX file types: assemblies, parts, drawings, assemblies and part instances. The connector easily adapts to your business needs, as for each of the NX file types, specific property mappings can be defined. The PLM property description, for example, is mapped from the NX custom attribute description. It is a forward mapping from NX to Aras, but backward mappings can be defined, such as for revision here. That means that the connector is able to write PLM information back into the NX files. We have seen this backward mapping in action a few seconds ago in the title block. As you can see, also default NX part attributes are supported, such as NX material. Aras methods can also be used, plus unique connector keywords. All these degrees of freedom ensure that the connector can adapt to a wide variety of real-case situations. Is it easy to define these property mappings? And where can one do that? Notice that I'm logged in to my Aras Innovator instance. All the connector mappings and settings are items in Aras Innovator, and creating and modifying them is as easy as logging into the PLM system as an admin, opening these connector items in the PLM, and simply selecting the right options from the drop-down menus, or type the property names with a very easy and intuitive syntax. The most challenging part is to design a connector solution that satisfies all your business needs, and the SAPLM consultants can help you design such an optimal connector solution, guiding you through the process of discovering and analyzing your goals and translating those needs into a working and efficient connector solution. As your CAD designers may work on different projects for different customers or world regions, they may need to adopt different connector settings depending on the situation. That is why the connector also allows you to create connector projects. You can think of these connector projects as a set of connector settings. From within NX, the user can switch to another connector project, and the connector immediately adopts the settings defined for that project. All the connector settings that are not property mappings are called resource settings. Setting up the connector resource settings in Aras Innovator is very easy. For example, this determines if the connector should retrieve the drawings of your assemblies and parts when retrieving them from the PLM system. This other one tells the connector to rename the NX native files when registering them into the PLM system. Going back to NX, we notice that some of these settings can be changed by the CAD user, as they only affect his or her local system. For example, I can change the option Auto Erase. I will leave it set to True, which tells the connector to erase the CAD files from my local system and from the NX session once they have been stored into the PLM system. Among other things, the connector is able to generate viewable files for your drawings, parts and assemblies, such as 3D PDFs, 2D PDFs, PNGs, step files, IGS and DXFs, plus many others. We will see this feature in action in a few moments. Let's go back to our assembly. We can explore the properties of the assembly that is open in session and all of other files in my local work folder by opening the Connector Workspace Explorer. This is a useful tool that allows you to view in the same window both local system and PLM information for all the NX files in your local work folder. For example, we have PLM revision, generation and state, such as preliminary or released. The connector also shows information in the form of icons, so that users can identify very quickly which CAD designs I have already registered but not yet stored, which ones, for example, are already released in the PLM system, or which ones have been locked by other users. If you are looking for PLM information about the NX files that are open in session, the PLM tab is another very quick tool that provides real-time useful PLM information. Let's proceed and store our assembly into the PLM system. This operation will store the physical files into the Aras Vault. Once again, the connector displays an intermediate window that allows us to review the information before we actually commit to store the documents into the PLM. We can even add or change the information if needed. Notice that even if I didn't have all the drawings open in session, the connector was able to retrieve them for me. As we have set the connector to generate on the fly PDF viewable files of the drawings, the viewable file is available here so that it can be reviewed. Clicking on the List View tab allows me to sort by any column, such as name or external type. I could even change operation for some or all the items. When I click Store, the NX files are copied into the Aras Vault and all the forward and backward mappings take place. The connector prompts me to store the BOM. I click Yes, and the connector automatically generates the BOM for my assembly. After reviewing the information in the connector window, I click Store. As I had the connector setting Auto Erase set to True, the connector erased the files from my session and from my local work folder. Now my design is securely stored in the PLM. Before retrieving our assembly from the PLM, let's have a look at the items and relationships that the connector created for us in Aras Innovator. Let's open the assembly that we have just stored. The PLM attributes have been mapped from NX, and the BOM has been automatically created. I could even create a multi-level indented BOM report. The connector also created all the part CAD relationships that link part items with CAD document items. Let's open the CAD document item for the assembly. The CAD Structure tab shows the CAD hierarchy that the connector created for us, based on the NX hierarchy. Clicking on one of these items, I can navigate to one of the children and its drawings. As you can see, the easy operations that we perform from within NX allowed us to create all the Aras PLM items and relationships that are needed to represent our CAD design in the PLM system. And the connector takes care of all the mappings between the PLM and your NX files. For example, the manufacturing method that we have selected on the fly during the register operation has been written back to the NX drawing and its title block, and also to the PLM attribute of its CAD document. To conclude this overview of the SCPLM's NX connector, let's imagine that I need to retrieve that assembly and replace a component with an existing one from the PLM system. I just have to click Retrieve from the connector menu, and this opens a search window. These advanced search and filter options can handle all the possible versions of the parts and assemblies in the Aras Innovator system, and they allow you to pin down the exact CAD document version that you're looking for. The connector also shows thumbnails and information in the form of icons to quickly spot the CAD design that we're looking for. Let's search for our assembly. I could even tell the connector to display only the released PLM items or only the latest versions or specify an effectivity date. And the search bar could even be customized by adding or removing columns with the PLM attributes that you need. For example, I will add the column Manufacturing Method, which displays real-time PLM attribute values. When I click Retrieve, the connector retrieves the information of the top assembly and all of its children. Once again, the connector hasn't physically retrieved the files from the Aras vault yet, as I have the chance to review and modify the information before the files are copied to my local work folder. I click Retrieve and the CAD design is retrieved from the PLM, copied into my local work folder and opened in session. I would like to replace the center support of my assembly with one with additional holes. I select the component and instead of using the NX Replace Component command, I click Replace in the connector toolbar. This opens a search window that allows me to quickly search and select the center support with additional holes that I'm looking for. I click Select and the connector replaces the old center support with a new one from the PLM. The connector alerts me that I need to lock the assembly in the PLM system as I am modifying it. This will prevent anybody else to modify the assembly while I'm working on it. I could now store the new assembly into the PLM system. The connector will create a second generation of the same CAD document for the assembly in the PLM database, as you can see here. We hope this brief introductory video helps you understand how the SCPLM's NX connector seamlessly integrates your organization's NX design data with the Aras Innovator PLM system. We have seen how deeply the connector is integrated within the NX UI, which in turn allows a CAD designer, for example, to quickly retrieve the correct design from the Aras Innovator Vault right from within NX. The connector also allows you to perform a detailed analysis and selection of models and drawings before committing to deliver the files from the Aras Innovator Vault. We have also seen how easy it is to reuse CAD design information from the PLM system thanks to the intuitive connector functions. Accessing PLM information for the design opening session and even for all the CAD models in the local work folder is very easy thanks to the Connector Workspace Explorer and the integrated PLM tab. Finally, we have seen that automatically storing an assembly and its bill of materials is extremely quick and easy, and that the connector takes care of the mapping from all the NX attributes of your NX files into Aras Innovator attributes. It is also possible to map PLM attributes back into your NX 3D models and drawings title blocks. Once the connector has completed the store operation, the new design is available in Aras Innovator for all the users with the appropriate permissions. Among other things, the connector automatically creates relationships between the CAD documents and related part items, and it also tracks and updates the relationship between their specific versions. It updates the bill of materials and creates a variety of viewable files. For any information, including scheduling a one-on-one demonstration of the SCPLM's connectors, please call us or get in contact with us at info@scplm.com. Thanks for watching.